Thanks a lot to Seedstream for sponsoring today's video. Mercedes' 2-3 finish this weekend was by far their best performance of the season so far. They may have been helped by some Ferrari mishaps, but both Mercedes drivers drove a great race, especially George Russell, whose late overtake of Sergio Perez required some sneaky racecraft. We're going to fill you in on how Mercedes found the speed to get two drivers on the podium for the first time this season and what it means for their season. Mercedes had pinpointed the Paul Ricard track as one where their cars should be strong, but they were further off the pace than they had been for 4 races after qualifying. Hamilton said, "We were hoping to be a lot closer than we are. I was thinking we might be 0.2 seconds or something like that, but we're a second off and I don't have an answer for that." Mercedes have taken a car upgrade to France that they thought might help them close the gap to front-runners Red Bull and Ferrari, who also had developments on their cars this weekend. But instead, Mercedes lost ground. Hamilton qualified 4th, 0.893 seconds off the pole time set by Ferrari's Charles Leclerc. In percentage terms, Mercedes are slower than at any race since the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in early June. The 7-time champion said his qualifying lap was beautiful, and he ended up 0.366 seconds quicker than teammate George Russell, who was also slower than McLaren's Lando Norris. The W13 featured a revised floor and some wing alterations for Paul Ricard, as well as some cooling tweaks to the nose and front brake ducts. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff said the lack of performance in qualifying surprised his team after encouraging recent outings at Silverstone and the Red Bull Ring. "We came here thinking we would race for a victory and were further off than we were before," he said. "We were slowly but surely working our way back to the front runners, and there were good signs in Silverstone. Then we went to Austria, a track where we're normally not competitive at all, and we could clearly see the signs why we were not competitive. But we were close, so that was acceptable. And we brought quite a nice update package to Paul Ricard. The track is smooth, off we go, let's hunt them down." And boom, no performance. Like, no performance. And we can't figure it out. We can't figure out what went wrong. Well, whatever was going wrong during qualifying definitely didn't appear to be wrong during the race. Hamilton had a good start off the line thanks to Sergio Perez's Red Bull struggling to find speed at the start. Lewis easily went from 4th to 3rd, and Russell was comfortably past Lando Norris, who had started a position ahead of him in 5th. If it hadn't been for the slow-moving Perez, he may even have passed Fernando Alonso, who had passed Norris on the inside at turn 1 and been a comfortable 4th or even 3rd as they settled into the first stint. From that point, the two drivers settled in for the rest of the race. Hamilton went unchallenged in 3rd before moving to 2nd after Leclerc crashed, and Russell made the most of a virtual safety car to overtake Checo late in the race and clinch the last podium position. So what was it that made the race so comfortable for Mercedes in the end? Well, we've done our research and scoured the news for sources to bring you the finer details of Mercedes upgrades. And we can do that thanks to today's sponsor, Seedstream, the independent F1 companion app that brings together the latest news and technical insight in one place from all the leading F1 publishers, along with video tweets from journalists inside the paddock and infographics from across social media. Unlike other aggregators, Seedstream groups all related content together so that similar headlines and any associated videos are all found within a single story to deliver a sleek user experience that's easy to navigate. Complete with quick access to the race weekend timings, as well as all the other key information from tyre allocation to the weather and race strategy, the app truly is an all-in-one platform for F1 fans like you. Download Seedstream for free by heading to the link in the description with no account needed to get started. The main aim for the upgrades that Mercedes brought to France was to increase the effectiveness of the ground effect floor. The ride height reduction is certainly the most important part of the upgrades they made. The W13 was still suffering from porpoising caused by their preference for a lowered setup, but in Paul Ricard, with its smooth track surface and the new upgrades, the car seemed incredibly stable. In Austria, they lowered the chassis at the rear of the car, so they had to reduce the travel of the rear suspension, meaning it now only had a few millimeters of travel. By minimizing the elasticity of springs, bars, and dampers, the car became pretty nervous and unpredictable. While the car definitely felt faster for the two drivers, Hamilton and Russell both made mistakes in qualifying that were likely caused by this new nervousness. We think the changes the Silver Arrows made in France address this slightly. The team said before the race that we wouldn't be able to see the upgrades they brought to Paul Ricard, and if they made changes to the chassis or suspension to improve the predictability of the car, we wouldn't have seen them. The W13 has a very low setup to make the most of the floor, so the pitch in the brake and the rolling in the corners has to be millimetric. This is achieved thanks to the pushrod suspension. The hydraulic flow regulating valves control the dampener progression, allowing Mercedes to set the suspension with the perfect amount of travel. There is another element to the suspension, a disc springs pack with non-progressive stiffness. This allows Mercedes to set the exact compression of the pitch when the W13 brakes. The anti-roll bars, which have exchangeable elements, provide a wide range of settings to contrast the lateral lying of the body of the vehicle. This all creates a contractive effect that in the corner keeps the internal tyre close to the track, giving a good driving precision and a reduction of understeer. In the race, this is shown in Mercedes tyre management, which is some of the best in the field. What this looked like in France was that while Mercedes may not have been as fast as in qualifying as Ferrari and Red Bull, they were able to manage their tyres much better. This helped them maintain their positions during the race as the rest of the field slowed down around them, and it was likely a factor in George Russell managing to get past Sergio Perez late in the race. We think that whatever the secret change that Mercedes made was, it probably aided the chassis and suspension system in stabilizing the car and addressing the problems they saw in Austria. Andrew Chauvelin, Mercedes trackside engineering director, admits that there is still a long road ahead of the outfit, but has taken plenty of encouragement from the result. Reflecting on the outcome, Chauvelin said, "That was our best race of the year and really pleasing to see both drivers racing at the front. We know we've got a long road ahead of us, but compared to where we were a couple of months ago in Monaco and Baku, it's really satisfying to see the team and drivers having a bit of fun again." Of the one-lap deficit to Red Bull and Ferrari, Chauvelin added, "The weekend hasn't been easy. Our qualifying positions weren't far off expectation, but the gaps to Charles and Max were eye-opening. We'd hoped that the car would be kind on the tyres in the race. The conditions were very tough given the circuit and the temperature, but degradation was good. Whilst we were lacking a bit of pace, we at least seemed a bit stronger towards the end of the stints." Mercedes have moved to within 50 points of second-place Ferrari following their 2-3 finish and Leclerc's costly crash from the lead. Chauvelin hopes the Silver Arrows will be able to continue their momentum as the F1 field moves on to Hungary this weekend. "We've only got a couple of days to try and regroup and prepare for Budapest," he commented. "Hard work has got us to a level where we can fight for a place on the podium, but we want to be fighting for the top step. We've got one race to go before the summer break, so we will be pushing hard to try and finish the first half of the season on a high note." Mercedes have looked a lot more stable as a team over the last 4 races since Baku. They are consistently making the most of Sergio Perez and Ferrari's inconsistencies, and that might make the difference for them in the Constructors' Championship. George Russell is 90 points behind Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton is another 16 behind him, so neither are in a position to challenge for the world title. But a valuable second place in the Constructors' Championship is up for grabs. With Ferraris falling apart every other race and Sergio Perez looking less and less comfortable with the developing RB18, Mercedes are in prime position to make a late charge in both championships. Want to know more about what's happening in Formula 1? Then click the video showing on your screen and I'll see you there.